Welcome to another episode of Simply Thriving in the North. We're here with Levi Davis. We have an exclusive time together at the studio here in Lheidli T'enneh territory. And Levi's from Treaty 8. Welcome, Levi.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could talk about so many juicy things, but I think we got to keep those riverbanks there so that water can flow. So I was hoping we could talk about this idea of, pursuit of happiness or self-love, healing. Like, what does that look like for you in your life?
Well, just to make sure that we stay on track, I mean, get my little notes here because, we've known each other for a long time and we only have 1 hour. So I want to keep everything condensed, keep it good for TV. So,
well, who are you? Let everyone know who you are.
Ooh, be seen. I know, it's an interesting topic and it took a long time to get here now to be able to be, I guess healed isn't the correct word, but it's healing, to be able to be seen, to be on TV, to be comfortable enough to discuss really, sensitive topics and just be comfortable, being yourself, I suppose. So I think that, or my thoughts are, we'll start Johanna J. My name is Kema Levi Davis. I come from the Fort St. John Beaver Band, which is now Doig River and Blueberry First Nation. We reside in Fort St. John, BC, and we come from Treaty 8 territory. Fort St. John Beaver Band is the reason why Treaty 8 was signed originally. The Munyaz people, or the settlers, needed gold from Alaska, so they were traveling through our territory. I think it was 1876 or 1872. It was Indian country, but they needed access to Alaska, so they were using their wagon trails and going through. And then finally we said, you can't just stop, chill. What are you doing? It's too many of you. What's going on here? You're shooting everything. What's going on? This is our territory. People died to come here. The Peace River is named the Peace because the Cree and the Beaver Indians had a great battle, 1v1, warrior versus warrior. And we said, okay, you can't come over, Cree, stop. So I'm we're coming over, and no, you're not. So then we just had a war. And then the Peace River is named the Peace because we seen settlers were coming across. And then the division was Beavers, Indian stays on one side, Cree stay on another. Then we had to do another battle with the white people. That one was more what's the word, diplomatic. And it was less death, and just because we just realized there was a lot of, you can't stop the oncoming flow. So how do you dance in the river if you have a torrential downpour? The people still need to survive. We come from the Ice Age. So long story long, it's just how it's always going to be. But the treaty was signed I think 1899, and that's why Treaty 8 has so much power and there's such a large territory, is because they needed access to get to Alaska for the gold. And then we made some deals and, same story as everyone else. Now here we are.
It's really one of the only treaties in all of, BC, colonially known as BC. There's one other one, right? So, but really, when people say unceded, it's because a lot of the First Nations territories are not, they do not have treaties.
Well, they didn't have any resources that were needed at the time. So the settlers didn't need to make treaty. So what was the reason for the settlers to continuously go through land? And then if they weren't contested, they didn't have a great warrior force and they weren't able to defend their land, then they were just kind of slowly amalgamated or taken over by force or used, any of the, pretty sure you've talked about it, I would imagine, any form of biological warfare, food warfare, psychological warfare, using sugar as a drug, using alcohol as a drug. Time stands for as long as people have been on Earth. They've used tools against each other for more resources.
Absolutely. So I know that you also wanted to state, that you have Dakat elders work that you're wearing and representing here on Dakat territory.
So I never had enough resources back when I worked for the Takla Nation, and I'm very thankful they gave me the opportunity to work for them. And I always hold their teachings high in regard. because I'm an urban Indian, and I never got taught these things from my own res. So as I started going out in the world, and as a treaty member, my rights as a treaty person don't go outside my treaty. So I couldn't buy a job when I lived in Prince George. So when they gave me the opportunity to work for them, I never had the resources to be able to afford to get a vest made or like buy an existing vest. So once I, started making moves in the world, then I bought this elk hide, like traditionally done from Savannah, Legacy, and Cowboy John, and they made it traditional. And then I sent this hide to her, and I went around and I got these beads from Vancouver and Edmonton and all over. And then, because Cecile Williams, she's quite old and she's not doing a lot of bead work anymore, and I just made it really easy for her to provide all the beads and all the string and all the sinew and all the needles I could find, and I just chose like a bunch. I gave her a big stack of stuff, and I was like, will you please make me like a vest? So I got
it's captivating.
Yeah, I think it's like pretty William. She's a lot of respect to the Williams family, and they're from the Bear Clan, and I just wanted to pay homage to her since I'm in nearby to their territory. And I'm also wearing, I went just full Indige. And I've been wearing these like a bunch, so this is kind of just like, because it's kind of a little cold in here, but this is from Louise Cardinal, and she is a Beaver Indian, and she's from the north. I don't actually know if that's a wolf or a bear.
That's definitely a wolf.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
She did this sleight of hand thing. She's like, oh, your feet look like this. So she like put my feet up. And we were at camp, and she's like, okay, this will fit. I was like, I don't really know if I want like a bear or like a wolf. Like, what else you got? Like, oh, okay. So then she pulls out another pair. She's like, okay, you'll take both of these. What do you want on the top? So she just kind of was like, okay, here, you take both these. So now I have a bunch of pairs from her, and now it just made me realize like a lot of this technical work and a lot of this like amazing like craftsmanship will be lost. So now I've just been gathering it as much as I can, like finding elders that'll share with me some of their work, and then just purchasing it. And
so you said you're urban First Nations, and so you weren't really around the culture as much before. So how has that taken part in your journey of discovery of who you are? It sounds like you put a lot of meaning into how you gathered the beads, where you got them, the thought put in, and what it represents to you. I mean, culture must play a huge role in your own healing journey.
Oh boy, it's been so far. I want to go back. I suppose I gotta start at the beginning. So I come from Native ancestry. My dad was full Beaver Indian. My mom was white English, like 100% English. And then I was raised off reserve. My stepdad was Métis, and we never had like a connection to culture. Like we lived in the same town, but my mom always kept me away from the things going on, for better or for worse. Like it is what it is, but we lived like out in the country, and we just lived around like a bunch of like Mennonite farmers. So like Mennonite farmers, Indian kid, like too Indian to be white, too white to be Indian, like don't fit in anywhere. So you always just have to kind of make your own path. And is that a path of self-destruction, or is that a path of self-enlightenment? It's like your job as a human being to decide, are you going to continuously pass down like your parents' trauma from their great-grandparents and from there for 7 generations, you keep passing that thing down. And I mean, you can like run through life like that, but I just had like this higher calling, and went through like the fast cars and the expensive trucks and the trips and the houses and the drinking, and I went through that whole path.
Pleasure-seeking activities.
Just like trying to find like, okay, well that's what you're supposed to do. Like you see all the stuff in culture, like pop culture is telling you like, oh, you gotta party, you gotta have all these girls, you gotta do all this stuff, and It's like, okay, well, you did that, tried that. It's like, all right, well, nothing, like, where's this empty hole? Like, where is this? I can't satiate it. There's nothing that will satiate this. And then just kind of trying to find your path, and it ended up being, you know, a lot of hardships and effort to get to where we are, but you learn all this stuff and you get all these tools in your toolkit, and you might not necessarily like know what that tool is going to be for in the future, but you just know you need to do something. You can't just like do nothing. Otherwise, like, life will make things difficult for you to make sure that you move forward. You always need progression forward. So life will continuously push you and push you and push you until you either reach a breaking point or you make the step. So it'll offer all these steps. Like, sometimes you're not ready for that step, but like that step you stepped on might like fall down, but then that step might like come back around in like a decade and be like, oh, here you go. Here's the step that you took. The seed that you planted like a decade ago is now ready and ripe for you to just, you don't do anything. It just is ready. Here you go. Here's a beautiful flower. So,
So back up.
bit of a ramble. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks.
No, the ramble is great.
It's too much.
No, it's not. It's never too much. So there's a moment in time when you said you were surrounded by, you know, Mennonite farms. You were, you know, you were living in the in-between of knowing where you belonged, your identity, where do you fit, you know, feeling that exclusion. But at what point did you decide and know, like, do you remember the turning point where you said, I don't want to repeat cycles like family trauma? What made you decide that? Like, can you articulate that? Where is that in your story?
I don't think there's a specific point. I think it just comes down to, you watch your parents grow, and my mom was really young when she had me. Like, I couldn't be more than 20. Like, and now I'm 36. Like, when I think about like a 20-year-old, I think like, you know, that's a young person. That's a young adult. That's like a small child. Depends what level of effort they had to put in from, you know, did their parents help them get raised, or did they leave when they were 15? Like, I moved out when I was 15. So where are they in their cycle? And I think it just came down to, I just seen like grandparents acting, when they get triggered, they're acting like 7-year-olds. And they're not thinking with their whole life of experience. They're thinking, I must contract, I'm 7 years old, like, I have to save myself in order to survive, so any trigger, I just immediately go back. And like, sometimes like the trigger is just a hair touching. Sometimes it's like a hammer hitting through the wall. Sometimes it's a foot going through the door. But it depends like how much trigger that person has. And I just was witnessing this around me, and I was like, I don't want to act like that. Like, that seemed, like, why is that person acting like that? They're like they're an elder. And then I got introduced to the topic of like, there's a difference between an old person and an elder. And then I was just like, oh, okay. And you just start unpacking your consciousness. And different experiences, and going through and seeing different like adults that are supposed to be in like the authoritative role, and like different counselors and different like, you know, chiefs, and, you know, seeing all these different things. And I'm like, well, wait a second, how did you get into power? Like, why are you acting like this? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, these are your people. Why are you being mean to them like that? And then it made me like, you know, you start to unpack more things, and part of it too, like, I constantly was being bullied in the professional realm, and I was just like, why are these people being mean to me? Like, I'm just trying to put in this effort. And then I had to like, I quit my job and left, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to Bali. And I just like left. When I was in Bali, I learned all these other topics and ideas, and then like, you know, it's very healing energy over there, so I spent a bunch of time over there, and then all these like pieces, you know, start to connect as you like start your path. You don't know where you're walking, the path will form in front of you. You just know that, okay, well, I can't go where I've already been there. I've seen what that path is like. Let's just keep moving forward. And to kind of like come full circle back is like, even today, like, I'm sitting outside like waiting, like, what am I going to talk about? Like, well, I made sure I write a bunch of notes, you know, and then like my cousin calls me and then just like gives me the thing I need to like keep going. It's like, you don't know what you need until like you're in the moment, but you know that like, okay, I already have all the tools and skills I need to do all the things all the lessons I'm going to get put in front of me. I already have like, you know, like whatever you want to call God or creator, or like Nata, or, you know, divine, or even if you don't have like a higher power, like your own inner knowing, like you are the God, you are the sun. So you have all the tools in front of you, and you have all the things that you need in order to accomplish all the goals and challenges that will be put in front of you. Just know that, like, what else are you going to do?
So you had this wisdom to see, you know, the adults around you as you're a child, and you're acting like a child. Like, where are these people that are sources of wisdom I can look to? And then again, as you grow older and you're in this professional realm and you're like, why are you this distinguished person when you clearly haven't developed your own inner world yourself, right? And so, you know, how are you landing with that dissonance? Because that dissonance exists. Like, I see it all the time where these people that aren't as educated for, say, what we know is truly needed on the ground level, they're in this level of leadership, but they're gatekeeping and not allowing true progress to form. That's what I see all of the time, because we need leaders that have done their inner work, right? That are coming from their heart. And so I know you've been in a lot of leadership roles, and you were just in Edmonton talking. You did a speech. What are you doing now to try to shine and influence out there?
It's like a constant battle. And do I have enough knowledge in order to share with other people? Is it time now to tell my story, to be seen? Like, when I look around, and part of this is like due to where we are in civilization's life cycle. Like, we've had, it was like 100 years of essentially no real war, at least over here. So we have like 4 generations of people that have like lived in the city. And when you live in the city, like, I could go any time of day to get anything I want at any time. If I want to drive 30, 40 minutes, I can get anything. So when you are constantly brought up in that like environment, you're fully disconnected from anything to do with nature. And there's so many ways I want to talk about this, but if you can help me like bring it back, my thoughts are like, when you're surrounded by abundance all the time, you'll always find like the smallest like piece of grain of sand like in your shoe. And then that's like the thing that you're going to focus on, because it's not like, oh, hey, my friend just like lost a foot or like lost an arm or something. Or
yeah, you're talking about resilience. So like, things feel good all the time, so you really don't have the capacity to feel those real true things like some of our ancestors endured all the time.
And if you have an easy way of numbing your entire existence, then you're not going to be forced to really think about self. When we talk about like going back to the land or like going to Kema, like Kema means a pure place in nature. And the elders say like, when you're not good in the mind, like go to Kema. And when you're in the city and you're around these like comforts, and you can set your like temperature to a certain thing, or you can set your steam shower to a certain temperature to have the certain water pressure all the time. You just like push a button and it's instantly the same. Then you're not surrounded by any form of struggle. And when you have no struggle and you aren't able to like think about self, like, okay, well, I need to learn this skill in order to make sure the next time I go out I don't die, or I need to pack this tarp and this paracord or this like piece of meat, so the next time I go to the bush I'm not gonna like get stuck in a rainstorm or snowstorm and then like perish. It's like, oh, well, this thing happened to me and now I'm gonna take it down on everybody else. But over time, people just being in the system, they're going to perpetuate the system, because they don't have another lens or another like binocular to think about either themselves or how they're treating others, because it's just the
or the time or the livelihood to be able to do so, and like working 8 to 4, the cost of living, the way the system perpetuates consumerism, then take care of the kids. They just don't even have time to self-reflect.
news cycle, the TikTok brain, like scrolling reels. Like, that's my addiction now. I'm not gonna lie about that. But it's they make it so quickly, and that just like that primal instinct of yourself is just like they
Put the phone
they
down.
know. Oh man,
Get back to that peaceful place in nature.
totally.
You know, they say it only takes like 6 days to reset your circadian rhythm if you just go out in nature. No, none of that technology.
Yeah, even just
you were doing
a single
camps
night.
though. Like I just love the camps that you were doing. I know you're not doing them now, but you know that idea of bringing people together to do that work. Can you talk a little about that? Why you did that?
Yeah. So my new role, I work for my nation, and I'm building content for the BC Hydro Sightseeing Museum. So we're building a museum, and we don't really have like a lot of artifacts. So what stuff do we put inside the museum? And now due to all these like cumulative effects and ESG and DEI and all these like buzzwords, like companies are now forced to consult with the nations that they're doing business with, or the nations they're doing business on the land of, where they're taking their resources. And we happen to be a very resource rich nation, and these companies are now forced to consult with us. So my nation built this program called Camping Experiences, where we take people to the land and show them what it's like to camp, what it's like to be on the land. And it's been a couple years doing it, and we do four a year. So yeah, essentially like they put me in this role and they're like, you're taking people camping. And I was like, okay, what kind of camping? Like, cause I've been tarp camping in the mountain, and I've been like, you know, bougie fifth wheel camping. Like, what level of camping are we talking about here? So I made it nice, right? It was a kind of spring, whatever. Got some wall tents, got a bunch of like nice sleeping bags, got a bunch of cots, and then they came over to this thing we have been running for 37 years called Doig Days, where all the grade 4s, like 1,000 people come to Doig, and we take them around to different stations, and they learn different things from us, and we teach them culture and language, and just show them like, hey, you know, you don't need to be afraid of us like scary Indians over here. And over generations, you know, how many different grade 4s have come through, and everybody always remembers, oh, I always remember Doig. So our people have always been really foresight in thinking about the future, and how do we continuously connect that person to the culture and that person back to the land. And these camping experiences we've been doing, we take people to the land and we show them how we, you know, kind of survive in the land. And there's different levels to it, obviously. Like you can have it really nice and easy by the band office, or like we can make it a couple hours out in the bush, and we can do it in the middle of winter and it's -20 and you're trying to survive. And
it's good for egos. It's good for helping people who are in that corporate world, or that mindset of, you know, what they think is what it means to be alive and human and perfect and whatever all of their being enough story is, right? And productive. And it's good to break down those like kind of egoic principles if you were to go in those more extreme environments, hey?
Well, it even makes it a little bit easier for, like, do a little sales pitch here, for like C-suite individuals. Is like, you've been spent so much time in this upper realm of dictating, you know, you spent 20, 30 years grinding to get to the top, and now you're at the top. You might be disconnected from the guy on the bottom. And this kind of offers a place for the guy at the top to talk to the guy at the bottom, and instead of it just being like an email or do this or do that, then it's like, oh, you know, like we're packing some wood together or packing some water, or like, you know,
all human, all
whatever,
equal.
bio break. And then it's like, oh, right, like you're just an actual person. And then you're able to understand this other person. And it just creates this more continuity up and down the chain, because you're able to communicate in a different way. It's not like I have to put on this face because this is my boss, and I'm the boss. I have to put on this face because that's my staff. I have to be this way. It's like it breaks that barrier. And as we start developing the experience out, you know, we kind of shifted more into healing. Like My nation's done a lot of work into making sure that it's, make sure I say this right, for shout out to Riley Absassin. So people come first and the person comes last. So the people eat before chief and council eat. And they've always thought that way, and that's the way the principles have always been. So even when they first started getting like reparations or land back or money back when land was stolen, and we proved it through court that it was stolen and done through a pen stroke instead of like, when the returning veterans came back from the war, we had 18,500 and something acres. And the federal government said, oh yeah, actually we need that land, so this is now the returning veterans' land. So they transferred all that land to the northern Canadian veterans. And then we got shifted off into these little reserves and divided. The political system was divided on purpose, everything for division. And we said, okay, well, like we didn't know any of that. We were seasonal round people. Like my grandmother was the last of the people to go from camp to camp to camp for the seasons. And one day they just showed up, and then there was a fence there. And they're like, what is this? And they're like, oh, this is our land now. I'm like, well, wait a second, like, this isn't your land, like, this is our land. Like, we made this deal for the treaty so that this was our territory. And as it like fully started chunking down, Peace River, Block, all those sorts of things, now we've been able to prove, like, we got the documents, we've been able to prove, okay, this was actually taken. So we started to get some money back. Instead of the money going directly back to the people, the chief and council at the time, Gary Oker, they decided they were going to put this into a trust for the community. Give some payment, rest of it in a trust. So now that trust has been able to build over time. And that's where I got educated from, was from that trust. They paid for my schooling, and they paid for me to go to school. And even though like, it took a long time, and might not necessarily have like a bachelor's of anything, like I have a certificate in project management, and they gave me a lot of opportunity to go to school. And even though my brain's not built for like memorization of words and numbers, I learned a lot of stuff by going to school. And I was able to be in an environment where I was able to take a step back from the healing and from the drinking and all the kind of stuff, the chaos at home, and just be in a different space. So kind of take it more full circle, and I kind of just do this all the time, but you don't know what you don't know. So by going back to the land and by taking yourself away from like the city and the hustle and bustle, or away from the family, you're like putting your own person in a different space, and then you can just see what that's like in those other spaces, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but you want to be the fish out of the water so you can actually know yourself and know what water you're even in to begin with.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like the boiling frog. Frog doesn't know the water's boiling as the water's heating up.
Yeah, that's very true with colonial mindsets. I mean, colonization has impacted everyone negatively at some point because it's disconnection. Colonization is really disconnecting, in the levels of thinking and what truly matters, which is that humanity, right? And human-centered values that are all about love and connection. And we know now, although it was always known by so many cultures, is that love and connection is what heals mental health and addictions. So have you found that for yourself? Like, where are you finding love and connection? Do you love yourself? Has that helped you to heal on your journey?
It's funny you talk about like loving yourself. It's like, for some reason I got this program put into me. I don't know where it was. Maybe it was like on a bus somewhere. I was like little. It's like not good enough. Like nothing's ever good enough. You need to produce goods. You need to produce work in order to feel love. You need to produce things. You need to get stuff done in order to like get attention and love. And then like this like talent, like you're a piece of shit and all this kind of stuff. Oh shit, swore. Sorry, Grandma.
Was bred since like kindergarten, to produce to be enough, and then you're glorified. Yeah.
Which probably came from like, as the settlers moved over, it hasn't been here that long, but the land was naked, it was bare, it was open, it was pure. Everything was in balance. But then they needed the resources to send back to their kingdoms whether it be, New England or back east, or maybe it's the Crown, wherever the resources needed to go to pay for like the kingdoms of old. They used all those resources from this land and shipped them back. And I mean, they continuously do now, and the people still just witness it. But they gridded out the environment, created blocks. Everything's in a block, everything's in a grid. And it's not natural, it's not the way nature did things. So they blocked things out and then said, okay, well, in order for this piece of land must produce a good in order for it to be of worth. And then the settlers, they bred, they made children, families of 8 to 14 children. And then those children were workers. They weren't like, it wasn't like a loving family. It was like, I need 4 more children to produce this thing, to make this stuff for this family to survive, in order for us to get more land, to get more, and now that I'm a bit older, and some of my family, they've got land reserves, and they're starting to block them off and sell them off, and I'm just witnessing other families like have big swaths of land. Excuse me. I'm witnessing these other families have big swaths of land, and that land still needs to produce goods. So those goods need to go back to a place. So maybe you'll help me bring it back to full circle. I'm on a little ramble there, but.
So your self-love and connection journey and around, that love and connection, you said there was such a disconnection, which is true, because those children aren't being loved if they're being production, like kind of cogs in the wheel for consumerism, right? A capitalistic society, which really formed after, during the Industrial Revolution, after World War II, right? And so those values embedded to be like, no, we want the all-American dream, right? And they disconnected that love is the binding force. And for us to be healthy in a culture, it is love and connection. And we separate from that, we go off course. And even if we go off course a little bit, it's like a plane, and over time, we're way off course. So when decisions are made that really matter, those, like if people's mindsets are in a different set of values, then we just keep perpetuating that. And we're over here.
You're just
we're
passing
stuck.
it down.
So bringing it back and healing, I really wanted to know about your journey with healing for your own self-love.
Right, okay, we'll take it back. So we'll do a cut here. And so last night, I have no more cash. I'm like, okay, well, I need some cash. And I've needed some cash for like a week, and I've just like have had no cash, haven't had a chance to go to the bank. And I'm like, okay, well, I've been using my American money for tips and this stuff. Like I've been traveling, been gone a month. So cash reserves are low. Gotta get to the bank, and I'm using card, whatever. So finally I like drive into town. I'm like, all right, my old town, stomping grounds, I'll go to my bank, pull up to the bank, get some cash. And I go, and as I'm exiting the bank, and I always catch myself when I do this now, instead of just like, I'll like walk through, like look at your reflection. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, like you're this, like, oh, negative thought. And then like, you'll like go past the reflection, and then like, wait a second, like that's not the new me. Like, who is that old program that's running? Okay, well, just in this moment, I'm gonna practice a little bit of self-love.
Yeah.
Like, all right, go back, like just think about it, like go to a good spot, like take a little breath, it depends how bad the thought is.
What were you thinking?
I was just like, oh man, what a piece of shit. And I was just like, whoa.
You
That's
actually
like,
thought those words?
I thought those words.
Wow.
And I was like, that's not, what are you talking, what is this?
Yeah.
Go back through, close the door, open the door, just like stare at myself in the mirror for like a couple seconds. Like, no, I love this person. Like, King Levi, who is this? Why did I think that thought? And sometimes I still think that thought, and it still gets me caught in there. Maybe it's because like, been traveling a long time, overtired, just finished coming off of like being sick while I was away, and I'm in like a vulnerable moment. Maybe it was an old image of someone that got money from that bank a long time ago, and when I like looked at my statement, I was like, oh, I thought I should have more money in there. And I was like, oh, whatever, I'll check it later. And in that moment, many times I went to that bank and I had no money. I had no money.
Yeah.
I'm like scrounging to get enough money to make a payment for a mortgage, you know?
So an old story surfaced. So even if you've done so much healing, you're in a similar environment with that same stimuli that provoked that old story you used to run about yourself, which sounds self-loathing.
Totally. It was so self-loathing. And I was like, wait a second, like, that's not the story. That's not the story it is now, baby. So I'm like, roll back a couple chapters, you know, rewrite over that program.
Restory that, yeah.
Restory that, because I'm like, that's not like a weird thing, right?
I had that when I moved back from Kelowna, like, because I was so exposed to spaces that I hadn't been for a long time, since before my healing journey, and I had to restory then over top that old imprinting that came up, you know, like that does happen, and it's an important thing to talk about. So now, how did you feel when you woke up, though? Did you feel refreshed and back to Levi now, or?
It wasn't even. It's not even like I need to go to sleep. It's just like a rewrite over that thing
right away.
And
because you're aware of it.
Because I'm aware of it. But when I noticed that thought, I was like, that's not my thought. That's like an old Levi's thought.
Yeah.
So I came through that that cycle there, and I'm like, whoa, that's not the new person. That's not the new version of me. Like, I've lived 10,000 lives since I was that person in that struggle. And then I didn't even need to go back through and like look through my bank to make sure I had enough cash. It was like I seen how much I had, and I was like, I got enough. I got abundance. Like, why am I thinking this old thought? And I just went through, and I was staring at myself in the mirror in that reflection, and I was just like, I just like smirked and just like laughed a little bit and like snapped my fingers, and I was like, you know, we're shifting dimensions, baby. We're not that old person. And I like got back in the truck, and I like thought about it. I just sat there in the truck for a second, and I was like, just kind of smirked and laughed, and I was like, all right, you know, there's still always healing to do, but at that point, like, am I gonna go back down a spiral and be like, oh, I'm gonna go back to drinking and eating and sugaring and gaming to abundance, trying to fill that void because I couldn't in that moment realize, oh, okay, well, I was enough. I am enough. Like, I have enough. Why am I gonna rewrite and run through that path? I already know where it ends. I'm like, okay, all right. Get back on it.
This show's all about bringing thriving to the north, and, you know, really lifting that kind of energy to go, you know, there could be love. People can love themselves. People can love each other, which I think is so lacking for many reasons. But, you know, what are some key elements that you found worked in your journey for you? Everyone is going to have different things that work for them when they're healing, when they're restoring themselves. You know, what worked for you, though?
Oh, so it depends who our audience is, but for the grandmas out there, you know, the kookums and the mooshums and, you know, the aunties and uncles, like, from all the travel in the world I've done, and I'm gonna make a statement that I'm probably the most traveled beaver Indian to ever have existed, like post-flood. I don't know what happened like previous, whatever, but like since the Ice Age, like, I would say I'm the most traveled. I've been on the most planes and boats and truck and walk around. And the thing I keep coming back to is the only way that you can heal at a deeply cellular level is like, you need to connect to self, and you need to have some sort of spiritual experience, whether that be whatever modality, doesn't matter. You need a spiritual experience in order to heal those things at a core level. And then you allow all these other healing to happen, like within your family or your bloodline or your ancestors or however it connects to you. Comes back to me like when I'm not in a good place, like I need some sort of psychedelic experience, and whether that be like breath meditation, and I'm like spending time trying to breathe in a yoga pose for an hour, and it's like an hour and 45, and it's hot yoga, and I'm like struggling in that moment to just like breathe and not like fall over, or not like go into a child's pose, or not like get out of there. Everything is screaming at you to get out, get out, get out. And we had a spiritual experience over when we did that
the sweat lodge.
The sweat lodge. I didn't know anything about sweat lodge. I just showed up and sat right at the front. Like, I could sauna, no problem, no towel, nothing. And we're there with a bunch of gangsters, and they're just giving her with these buckets, and I'm sitting up top, and it's steam. It is like boiling steam up there.
Boiling your skin. It was
I'm
so
burning.
hot.
It's burning my face and my ears, and I'm just like, and I'm trying not to move, and I'm trying not to be the one to say open the door, because like I'm me, you know. And I just finally like took so much pain and like struggle, and finally I like had to succumb to the steam and like had to go on the ground, and I'm moving around, and all the people around me are screaming because I'm pushing all the steam down to the ground where they are, and because I don't know, I'm like, I'm sitting there like this, and just struggling, like I'm just trying to just survive the moment, right? And in that moment, you're having a spiritual experience, like I'll survive this, you know. If this is all these things I've survived in the past, I got this, like I don't no problem. And then, you know, I finally like break down and succumb, and I'm like on the ground. I'm like, oh, it's cool down here. I was like, this is nice. And then like, oh wait, like other people had towels on over top, like a little cocoon.
Yeah, they did.
So then the next whatever we go out, I like collapse into the ocean, and I'm like, this guy's yelling, calling back like his spirit name, like yelling for the buffalo, and I'm like, I need like a bit of buffalo healing right now. So then, sort of in that moment, you know, it's just like, oh, I've survived all these things. Like, if this ain't gonna kill me, you know, we're all gonna die anyway. No use crying about it. Like, so
that's resilience.
Yeah, it's resilience, you know, like, and part of this too is like just to give it full circle for the viewer is like, hey, maybe I like need to put the bag of chips down just for a moment or the day, you know. Maybe I need to just take an extra little walk around the house. That's all I can do. Maybe just like putting my arms above my head is enough, and that's all I can do. Maybe I can grab a book and I can lift it above my head twice, and then I have to take an hour break. Like, that's all you can do. Maybe all you can do is just take a walk around the block, and then maybe all you can do is like an hour walk around the block. Maybe all you can do is like that mountain that's there that you've like said that, oh, this is impenetrable mountain. Maybe all I can do is just like walk towards the steps. Or maybe I can just walk to the step and look at it and sit on the step. Maybe I can take a step on the mountain, and that's enough for like whatever, a year. That's all I can do. It's there. It's too overwhelming. Too many things, too much noise going on in my brain, and I can't compile it down into its one like true essence of like, all these things that happened to me didn't kill me, and here I am.
So let's bring it to a vulnerability spot.
Oh, danger.
What is your thing that is the step that you could walk to, that your soul wants to walk to? Because you said it in the start. You said, ooh, being seen. Like, if I allow myself to be seen. So what is that point if you were to walk to, even just looking at the step? Like, what is it that you would want to go and take a hike up the mountain? What's that mountain for you?
It's like all these words that I like. One time someone told me like my words are weapons. Because you can't fight forever. How many times are you gonna get beat up? How many times are you gonna get yelled at and all this stuff? Like, you can only fight so many people. So then if you can learn how to be a wordsmith and like learn how to outmaneuver someone like a ninja using words of their language, then that's your fight. But then your people have spent so much time, or my people have spent so much time trying to be unseen so that they're not destroyed. Then I'm battling this ninja wordsmith to, okay, don't be seen, because we're trying to survive. We're trying to like make sure that we can pass the DNA from the ice age onto the next ice age. There's only 350 members of, you know, Beaver Indians in Doig River left. We come from tens of thousands of people. We've been around for 12,500 years in that area, controlling that time.
So you want to be seen?
We're gonna get there. So my thoughts are, okay? It's okay to be seen. And when I like look at the mountain and I see all the opportunities I've like pushed away of like being seen, or people wanting to me to be on their show, or wanting to like talk on the internet, or be in any sort of like position of like mental authority or mental acuity. Being seen is like my mountain. like, okay, sometimes I'll like check over, you know, like maybe I'll like make some Snapchats, you know, Snapchat's safe because like it goes away. Instagram stories safe, goes away. Facebook stories safe, goes away. But like putting long form content out. Permanence, like when I've put out long form content, not under my name, under another name, and just like, you know, put it out there. Like maybe you might get like 10, 100, couple thousand views, whatever. You know, when I put a video up of something, you know, might go viral, might do some things, but like it's never been of my face or like my personality.
So is your epigenetic like experience that you're holding back from, is that like the fear of, that you could be killed if you're seen? Because you kind of alluded to that.
I thought about this last night.
On a deep level. Because I know like a lot of women carry this too from a colonial history of ancestors from witch burning. Like really genuinely 900 million people were killed, right? And they all don't want to be seen in their power and their glory and their beauty and their gifts and exposed. Because at a level of like death, at a level of like, we're going to get these pitchforks after you. Like you cannot be powerful and seen. So like, where's the depth of not wanting to be seen? When you say like 2,000 views, okay, I can handle that. I can handle if it disappears. Like, what's the core terror there?
I think you hit it right on the head. I was thinking about it last night on my drive back, and I was like, some of these things that I have to say are like unpopular. But like, I've lived in America. I've lived in other countries. Like I've lived in Vietnam and Thailand and Cambodia and Australia, and I've lived these other places. And when I think about, you know, kind of things where things are going, it's like if I say some of this stuff, like, you know, who's gonna come after me? It's like the Native people have always been an enemy of, you know, the controlling powers. So if I start speaking up, like, are they going to come for me? Are they going to, in whatever capacity? But it's just like whether that be like a real thing that could happen, or if that was just like an internal, like, is this my?
But it's not even a pitchfork anymore. It's like psychological, they'll come after you, like psychological abuse, they'll come after you more. It's more social shaming and exclusionary methods or attempts, right? Like
cancel culture too, right? Like go back through and see some stuff that I posted like whatever 20 years ago. Like is that stuff going to be, oh, look at all those things? And now that I've been to the place where I'm at, for sure, like being seen is new. It's a new skill. It's a new thing. But I stepped into here today knowing, okay, well, if we're starting this journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Maybe I'm just gonna like look at the step. Maybe this might not ever air. Maybe this might go the most massive viral episode in human existence. But it doesn't matter. Like all it matters is like the one person that got the one thing that I said, for them to make that one step of healing, and that's all that matters. And if that's all my life ever made meaning to, is just like help that one person learn that one thing that they needed in that exact moment to like, you know, maybe put the gun down and not off themselves, or maybe like, you know, take the gun up and say like, hey, well, this is, you know, this is who we are, like, witness us. And
at least someone saying it rather than us going along like this is a normal way to exist, because it's not. The way that our society is developed now, it's not a normal way to exist. Like you look at the amount of people that need medical attention and help and can't get it, and there's a reason our society is like it's not functioning, and the system itself admits that it's not working. So I mean, they're going to resonate with the reality of human existence, of where it truly comes from. And I think, you know, when you share authentically, you connect it to your heart. So, you know, in wrapping up, like, how do you connect to your heart and make sure that when you're authentic, you are connecting to your heart? Like, what tips do you have, you know, in our final moments together here on this episode? Because I'm sure we'll get you back.
Oh man,
what
back again. So
what do you think?
To bring this full circle and give this something for the viewer to kind of really take home and to be, is you already know. Like, you know the thing that you have to do, so just start doing that thing and practicing that thing. It doesn't have to be the best thing ever. Like, maybe all you can do is just like lift your arm above your head, and that's all you can do because you're bedridden. But like, you came all this way are you gonna only come this way? You need to make the decision. I can't do anything for you. Nothing else can make anything for you. No TV, no internet, nobody else can do the thing for you. You have to make the decision to do the thing. And in order for you to come to this like full circle of true healing, regardless of in the north, the south, the east, or the west, it's like just by being back connected to the earth, going outside, watching that butterfly, watching that bird, listening to the sounds, connecting back to your breath, like putting your feet on the ground, feeling the earth between your toes. It's just like reconnecting yourself back to self, and then just making the decision, how do I want to proceed forward? It's like making that disconnection of that old person in the reflection. Like, that's not me anymore. I'm not even anywhere near that. That was 10,000 lives ago. Like, all right, go back, make a joke about it. Like, this is funny, you know. I didn't have to share that with you, but I just thought about, like, that was a vulnerability for me last night by coming back to this town. Okay, I've been to that bank before. I've had that experience. Okay, well, that's not me anymore, baby. You know, I'm just someone else. I'm vibing now. So I have other struggles, but it's not that struggle. So I don't need to go back down that spiral to all those memories and reconnect to all those things when I can just be back to myself and just, you know, love myself for who I am. And if all the love I can give myself is just like, maybe I won't eat some candy today, or like maybe I won't have that extra drink today, or maybe I just will take a 5-minute breather and like do a 4-cycle box breath, like 4 seconds holding your breath, 4 seconds inhaling, 4 seconds holding your breath, 4 seconds exhaling, and cycling that over. And if that's all I could do for myself today, then that's all the healing that you can do. And it just stacks over itself.
So when I ask about, like, how do you stay connected to your authentic heart and tools for that, I think you answered it in the sense that, you know, that is you in the water. Like, the fish in the water of authenticity, the water for you is authenticity. I don't think there's a deviation from authenticity for you. You're always authentic.
Who are you going to be? You got to be you. Like, everyone else is taken. So just be you, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just fun. Just be fun. Be who you are, and everyone else will find you. And if the people that aren't meant for you don't like who you are because it challenges who they are, then they're not meant to be around you. So continuously keep being you, and the right people will come around, and the right people will fall off, and just allow, as the rose like fully blossoms, some petals fall off before it becomes its fully like opened existence. And just know that like the best parts of you are already exist. So just pretend that you're that person that you want, that you see, like, oh, I see this like person, this like super version of myself. Just pretend that you're that version, and then everything in life will make that happen. And
so can the viewers expect for you to, you know, start that step up the mountain of being seen then?
I am. I'm here for you guys. Chill. Like, what else you want, you know? So
you're gonna do the footsteps up the mountain.
We're
to be
doing
seen?
it. Like, I just been.
No one's gonna hurt you.
No one's gonna hurt me.
No one's gonna kill you.
I can't. I'm divinely protected at all times.
No one's gonna kill you if you come and be seen.
I know, and I'm here. Look, there's no SWAT team, nothing here, and I'm here. You know, just chilling in the studio.
Well, we'll see next week when he releases it. What happens? Yeah. I'll message you.
The best over there.
Everything is safe.
It's good. We're fine.
You'll be loved even more.
Oh.
I think people crave authenticity. They're hungry for authenticity. So it's like a breath of fresh air in this inauthentic world. So I think you'll be embraced with love.
I'm trying.
I certainly embrace you.
I'm trying. I'm doing my best.
Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in to Simply Thriving in the North. Thank you, Levi. Yeah, I hope that you continue on in your journey in whatever way that is the best for you, and in the modalities that are right for you, and meeting the people. You know, the teacher truly does appear when the student is ready, and then that shows up in so many forms. And I think that Levi gave us some great tips as a teacher today.